Oh, we're live. It's me and Marshall's here as well. He's in the live. So this week on Monday Night Live, we were planning to interview Jack DeLosa. Jack's going to join us actually on Thursday to talk about how to bounce back in your business from COVID. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but it means that this session tonight, I thought, do I not go live? And I thought, no, I will. I'll use this opportunity to take questions and answers. And then what I'm going to do leading up, like just at the start, while we're waiting for people to drop in any questions that they may have, is I'm just going to explain a little bit about my background, who I am. And for some of you that may not have been following me for longer than a year or two, explain a little bit about what I do and why I'm passionate about what I do. Let me know that you guys are tuning in. I want to make sure that we're working on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you can drop in the chat. I normally ask which city you're tuning in from, but maybe I'll just ask, is it sunny, or is it raining, or is there thunderstorms? What's the weather like where you are? Let me know in the chat so I know that you're out there. Oliver, welcome. Good day, everyone. He's got his Australian accent on. Guys, I just want to make this a very genuine conversation. I think we don't see enough authenticity on social media these days, and I think, as particularly with some of my content, a lot of it's from like speaking engagements or webinars, and it may seem quite polished. So I thought it'd be good to have quite an authentic conversation, and yeah, because I think when I started my company, for those of you that don't know the background, I was working for a company that had some financial troubles, and I didn't have any income for 3 months, and I quit my job. And when I got home, I was served an eviction notice on my apartment. And then that evening, as the sun was going down, I went to turn on lights, and that happened to be the time that they cut my electricity out as well. And I asked mum and dad for help, they weren't helping me. Cut a long story short, a lot of things just seemed to go wrong very quickly. And I was in this place of almost desperation, really, not knowing what to do. And I thought about it, and I thought, look, nobody's going to help me out of this mess but myself. If I go get another sales job, it's going to be a while before I get good enough quality leads. And basically, I'm going to not have anywhere to live. The only way that I can get the revenue I need to keep a roof over my head is to start a company. And so I wrote my business plan that night, and I started the next day. And what I did is I contacted people on LinkedIn and messaged them and asked for appointments. And very quickly I was on the phone with a real estate agency, and they agreed to get their salespeople to meet with me that afternoon. And I pitched a one-page website, a LinkedIn profile, and a Facebook page for $2,500. 8 of them said yes. 6 of them paid on the spot. Made $15,000 in my first day in business with something that actually added value. I mean, if you Google their name, there wasn't much showing up for these real estate agents. It's quite important if somebody Googles your name that you are showing up in the search results. And if you have a website that's specifically for them, you have a Facebook profile that's for their business, and you have a LinkedIn profile, those will generally rank on the first page of the search results. So solved the problem, added value, and I was away. And I don't think I would have started necessarily the business if I wasn't forced into it from a desperation perspective. Lee needs to know, is your dog okay? Oh, Marshall, he's just a bit tired. He's been doing too much exercise. He's certainly okay. We'll let him rest for a bit. He's actually really happy to be in my office with me. I used to work in the living room, and I moved my desk and everything in here. So I've got an office that's separate to my living. And so he's actually quite lucky to be able to come in, because I've had Zoom meetings all day, and he's been not able to join me. So I've let him in this occasion. So look, during COVID, a lot of us have been impacted by things that have been changing, and it's all impacted us in different ways. Maybe not in our business, maybe in our personal life. I thought that when coronavirus hit, I didn't lose any clients, to be honest, and I kind of got to a place after we did the lockdown thing. Perth came out of it pretty quickly. We were very fortunate over here, almost a bit out of touch, to be honest. And I made the mistake of, well, not a mistake, but I basically just got comfortable and thought, this isn't affecting my business at all. Social media is just going to grow from here. And then in a short period of time, there was a few client cancellations, and then a few things didn't fit. And I find that I got in a position where I was lost quite a lot of clients in a very short period of time. And even though we do lead generation for businesses, I haven't done any lead generation for my own business in several years, mainly because the content I put out brings enough inquiries in that I can choose, the clients I want to work with. There's a capacity. I can only work with so many. And so I was in that position where I was like, oh shit, it's very similar sort of feeling to when I started the company, where I need to get some new clients in and replace this revenue to keep things happening. And a lot of people think that it doesn't happen, when you get to 10 years in business, or you got so many followers on social media, or you got this reputation. But there's challenges that come up. I can't anticipate everything. And one of the things that I attribute it to it is I wasn't mixing with as many entrepreneurs and business owners as I do normally outside of COVID. I had a beer with Brooke Valinovich, the Instagram coach, and I started talking, telling her about my issues, and then I told her the solution, and I was like, wow, it's so good to catch up with an entrepreneur. She just listened, really, but it's someone that gets it, and doesn't get concerned and worry. And I think we need that as business owners, to bounce off each other and literally change my mindset. And within a couple of weeks later, we're in a position now where I'm comfortable that we're going to be okay. But coming into COVID, my business was growing, it was doing really well. And then it sort of just stagnated, which I think that's a great result, given what's going on in the world. And then obviously some more challenges come. So I could imagine if you weren't already growing, going into COVID, that it would be extremely stressful time. And one thing I've learned over the years is if you're struggling to get new clients, or you're struggling in your business, generally it's because you're focusing on yourself, or you're being selfish, and you have that scarcity mindset. It's a bit like, if a real estate agent goes to list a house, but they really need that listing, the people that they're talking to can tell. Whereas the real estate agent that goes, look, my purpose today is just to give you information, to add value, to tell you about, the questions you want to know about the market, give you a fair appraisal on your house. Whether you choose me to be your agent now or down the track or not at all, that's totally fine. I'm just here to add value. That real estate agent just relieved all the pressure from the person selling their house. And that's the difference between what makes a good real estate agent, or I believe anyway, good real estate agent, and one that's needy and looking for what they want. Most of the time, I think in business, if we're not successful, it's because we're being selfish, focusing on our own needs, and also being impatient, expecting everything to happen immediately. Because the reality is, if you do the things that are proven to work, you will get the outcome. It's a bit like shaking the tree. If you shake the tree for long enough, the branches will fall down. But just quite often, I think we do become impatient and we expect everything to happen now. So if you do the actions that lead to the result, quite often, if you need sales and you speak to 20 people a day, it may not happen immediately, but then you'll find that they all just drop all at once. They all come in because you're doing the activity, you're making the phone calls. The last thing you want to do is stick your head in the sand, or try to avoid the problem, or not make the calls, or procrastinate, or try and get everything perfect. There's a great way to procrastinate. Thanks so much for the engagement, guys. I've got somebody here who's called Slim Shady. If it's a real M&M, is a dream come true. Awesome. Cape Town, how you going? Hey, Mark, spoke to you earlier. Herman Chow, aka your fairy godmother. Human and sunny there. Hey, Acheng from Niobe. Good to see you on here. London is lovely and sunny. Who have we got here? Lynn. Oh, yeah. Marshall looks super comfy on that couch. Yeah, his eyes look a bit bloodshot, to be honest. Maybe it's the lighting. You guys, drop in some questions. I actually am quite impressed with the amount of engagement we've got here. Founder of Women in Sports at WA, Karen, how you doing? Hey, Paul, good to see you here, mate. Always committed to joining the lives. I appreciate that. How is it possible to compel staff to make the calls? Well, you could, like, if they don't make the calls, you fire them. I mean, like, honestly, you know, if that's their job, they need to do it, or they get fired, because there are other people that will make the calls. I guess if they're not doing it, then generally the problem is to do with confidence, not having the confidence of what to say. I found in my experience that it's funny. I had like 3 salespeople working with me in Melbourne, and the conversion rate was like, it wasn't where it should be, and I could tell that they weren't following the script. And the script is like really good. Like, it's just, I'd ask the right questions, get the information, and if you get these answers and these answers, then you say this, and then you go to the next step. But the problem is, if you don't follow that process, you get to whatever, the end of the conversation, you realize you didn't get information, you didn't get that bit. And so I decided to delegate to my executive assistant, who has no sales experience, wasn't very confident about doing it. And I said, look, I need you to make 20 phone calls for me. These are the people that you need to call. This is what you need to ask them. If they say yes to these questions, this is what you say next. And the interesting thing was, she closed 1 in 5 of those phone calls, which was unheard of for the actual experienced salespeople. So sometimes it is just a matter of maybe paying attention to detail. It's fine if they're already closing loads of business. I was a very good salesperson, and I was a dick to the sales manager. I didn't rock up to sales meetings, and I was very arrogant about it, and I'm not proud of it, but like, I was like, well, what are you going to do if I'm the best salesperson, right? But if I wasn't making sales, if I didn't go to the sales meeting, if I didn't follow the scripts, like, I'd be fired in a heartbeat, and so I should be. So, you can only give people freedom if they're producing results. Why are you not reading our chats? Aditya Nishad, I have read this chat. Mate, I'm sorry that you feel like I went off. I'm literally just, where am I from? So I'm from England originally, and I moved to Hong Kong when I was 5 years old. And then when I was 10, I went to look at sporting schools. And Perth, closer to Hong Kong, to be honest, in Hong Kong, we had a football pitch that was concrete in the school, that one football pitch. And when I come to Perth, there's 18 Australian Football League ovals in a line at the school I looked at, Hale School in Perth. And I said, Dad, I want to go here. This is the best. And so I ended up moving to Perth and, living here, going to university, detailed personality, Karen Hennessy. I see so much about cold calling. Is it still a thing? Well, look, maybe in the North Pole, but I think that it's much more comfortable to do warm calling. So what I mean by that is, like, if you're going to correspond with somebody, if you're going to interrupt them, if you're going to interrupt them with a telephone call, I think that you need to understand more about them, so that you've got a good reason for interrupting them. The reason for the call is, what's that thing, and does it add value? Otherwise, what you want to do is you hop on LinkedIn, find them on there, you send them an invitation first to connect, so that you connected with them. And that's kind of like at the bottom of the engagement ladder. Like, they've just connected with you, they're in your network. Doesn't mean you can spam them, but it does mean that you can contact them on the basis that you're going to add value. That's what being in a business network means. So when you contact them and you say, look, I can see that you do this, or I can see this, whatever thing that you think that they could be the right client for you. You mentioned that. Say, I can see this. I'd love to find out more about what you do. It sounds really interesting. Can we hop on a telephone call? So no matter what you do not ask any of the things that you want to know in a LinkedIn message. You've got to do it on the call. You've got to keep control of the conversation. And so by focusing on, if you're sending somebody an invitation, the only outcome is the invitation. It's not like, I want to connect with you, then have a call with you, then have dinner with you, then sell you my services. It's just, you got to connect. And then, so it's a very small commitment. Then the next step is a little more of a commitment. And if they say no, call's not suitable, or they don't seem too keen, or they're like, well, what are you trying to sell me? You don't have to push it. Like, they're in your network. Say, okay, sorry, no, like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just really wanted to find out more about your business. But it seems, if it's too much trouble, that's fine. And then they're already in your network. So if you decide to post content at some point, you may not be doing it now, but having them in your network will be valuable when you start posting content, because eventually they'll see one of your posts or videos and say, oh, well, actually, that was really helpful. That added value to me. Oh, this guy's all right. I like him. I may even trust him after seeing enough of his content. Obviously, if you post stuff that's just like trying to sell tickets to your event, or you're trying to sell something, then it does the opposite. Like, you don't build rapport with those people. You may close a couple of deals with people that are down the customer journey, but you will isolate all the people that don't know that they need your service, or don't have the problem that you solve, or the timing's just not right. So it's just about having empathy to have conversations with people. I think that like if you're at a networking function or you're at a bar, is it okay to approach somebody you don't know? Well, some people would say no, but it's quite nice when somebody approaches you if they do it in a way that is entertaining, add value, flattering, or hey, I really love King Charles Cavaliers. Do you mind if I pet your dog? I mean, there's lots of ways. It's a very nice way to approach somebody, and it's no different on social media. But you just got to remember, there is a social platform. People aren't there. It's not like people wake up, go onto LinkedIn, and go, "Okay, salesman, come at me. I'm just here to be pitched to." That's not why they're there. So Mark built his business by door knocking, then moved to referrals and more now engagement. Takes time. Most people give up after the first 3 years to get out, believe in what you do, and then do it. Absolutely. I mean, door knocking can be a very effective strategy if you're good at it. Like, if you can make people laugh, and and referrals is still a fantastic way. I mean, I think in some respect, like, referrals is social media, because like, if somebody is my client and I look at all their LinkedIn connections, those are all the potential referrals. The only difference is, if I reach out and connect with those people, is that client's not going, "Hey, Nathaniel, here's that email address of that person that I think is helpful." All you're doing is you're reaching out and saying, "Oh, we know the same people. We know this guy. He's my client. I've had a look at your profile. I'm the one that's interested in what you do, and I'm interested in learning more about your business." And so you're finding out, first of all, like, if they would want your product, or they have a problem that you can solve. But then you also need to find out, like, whether the timing's right, because if you start pitching when the timing's not right, like, when would be a good time to do something about this? Because if you pitch too early, like, you won't be able to pitch later. So it's almost like people have to really earn the right to get a proposal from you. I used to think that when I went to networking functions, like, people have got to earn the business card. Like, I'm not just going to send them to everyone. And that was not so because I was trying to be selfish with the business cards that I handed out. It was more so just as a way to discipline myself, to make sure that I found out enough information about somebody before I gave them my contact details. And I think that there's a lot of focus on volume, like numbers. People, like, how many people in your database? How many people are coming to the podcast? How many people are, follow you on Instagram? And none of it really, it doesn't really give you an indication of how many people actually give a shit at all. Like, you could have 1 million followers on Instagram, but if none of them are in your target market, or none of them really care about what you do, then there's no value there. Unless I'm missing something. So it's just not the right questions to ask. And email databases, an interesting statistic. 30% of the emails, on average, change within 12 months. So if you've got a database of 100,000, 30,000 of them won't work after 12 months at least. And so if you've got that database for a few years, most of it's bouncing. But if the emails aren't adding value, they're getting marked as spam in any event. It's actually way more valuable to have people on social media, because obviously if their email address changes, they're going to keep their same social media profile. Generally, people don't go back and start from scratch with their social media. So building an audience becomes more important than having subscribers, I believe. I want to talk very briefly about COVID, and because people are spending more time on social media, but doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do better on social media just because their attention's there. People are looking for responsible social engagement. So this is just reading this from a report that Edelman, I hope I pronounced that right, I haven't got the company name in front of me, did a research report. They're a research company, do a lot of work with LinkedIn. They say consumers will continue to find value in experiences post-pandemic, but the focus will shift to those activations that are driven by meaning, authenticity, and connection. So this is interesting, right? Because connection has become something that's even more rare than it was. And so if people are not getting as much connection. It's a very basic human need. We all need connection, and now people are looking to get that through social media, so or through digital technology, because they're working from home. And so if you want to build connections with people, the best way to do it is to be authentic. It's actually going to be quite hard for the big companies. They can do it, but it's going to be harder for the big companies to do it in a way that's as authentic as smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, and individual influencers, because they're a personal brand. And so, before we would architect what is the ideal target audience, what is it they're interested in, and we serve them content that helps them. But if you can also layer on top of that the fact that you're human, and you've got a personal brand, and there are things that you care about that they fundamentally care about as well in their life, like family, learning from your mistakes, whatever it may be, and even your hobbies. It's not going to be all of your content, but if you post every couple of weeks when you're going for a surf and you talk about how good the waves were, don't overdo it, obviously, but somebody in your audience that surfs, you've just immediately built rapport with them, and they may go from being a passive follower to engaging with your content and moving up the engagement ladder. So the engagement ladder is very straightforward, but all it means is if somebody does one engagement, whether they press play on a video or they comment or they that's the first step. And it's very important that you don't just go, oh, that was nice, and move on. To interact with that person and to build a relationship. So if they comment, always reply, unless there's some reason why you can't immediately, try to reply. That's the most important thing that you could be doing, but reply authentically in a way that acknowledges that person. So if they've taken the time to comment and say, a great article, I disagree with you, rather than getting in an argument and say, well, no, this is the reason why. It's oh, that's really interesting. Thank you for your valuable comment. Do you mind if I ask you some more? You don't have, you could just be thank you for your valuable comment, but you could just genuinely think about that they've taken the time to read what you've written. They've taken the time to contribute something to the post, to add extra value, because it's about creating a conversation. Having a conversation is a lot more valuable than you just telling people what you want to tell them. And then you will build a much more meaningful relationship with that person, because they probably expected you to argue with them. And that's actually some of the people that comment on my stuff, on YouTube the most, are people that actually hopped on and go, do you know what, your stuff's crap at the start? And I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. Tell me more. I'm interested in hearing this feedback. What's crap about it? Do you have any suggestions what I could do differently? And it was interesting to hear, but I did hear, I listened. And so I think authenticity is very important. Also, authentic accountability here is a big thing. So the research has shown that in the last few years, consumers embraced a heavily experiential world driven by an era of pop-up shops and Instagram-worthy moments. So the time of posting, I think in Russia, there's this private jet company that literally has jets on the runway that people pay to do a 15-minute photo shoot with the jet so they can post on Instagram, and people are posting pictures of their feet in the sand when they're on a holiday. And so it's become this place where people go to show the highlight reel of their life. Look how awesome my life is. I'm so happy. And quite often the people that are spending the time doing that the most are there's a big gap that they're looking to fill on social media. And if you're relying on it to meet human needs like connection by being fake and showing people parts of your life that are basically just a highlight reel, I guess, it's a dangerous place from a mental health perspective, I think. But if you want to connect with people by literally adding value, finding out what will help them, it's a very good way to contribute to the world through social media. But what's happening is those accounts on Instagram are actually losing a lot of engagement at the moment. They're not getting as many follow. People are like, well, I could follow another guy that's posting pictures at the gym and selfies, or here's this person that's taken a photograph of them eating breakfast in their pajamas, and they've actually posted about what they're going through this week and what struggles they've had, and what they think about the isolation and how it's affecting people, and just having a completely authentic conversation in a very real moment has become so rare. And so people are looking for it. They're chasing authenticity and holding people accountable, because if they don't continue to be authentic, they will just unfollow them. And meaningful experiences. One of the ones that I've seen, which is fucking awesome, was Tony Robbins. If you go to Tony Robbins' Instagram page, you see the highlight, or his YouTube page, the highlight of like Business Mastery or UPW the virtual event. Like, most people are hopping on Zoom calls and they got everyone there, which is great. I mean, they're pivoting, they're innovating, they're still doing business. But like Tony Robbins has looked at it and go, okay, it's winter, people are suffering. How do I raise the standards so that I can give them a meaningful experience to improve their lives and help them even more during this time? And he's like, literally, it's like looks like a cinema in the room. So he's got everyone's faces. There's like 20,000 people there. He's got some of the best guest speakers coming in, and they're all at home, like in their living rooms, going nuts. He's dancing, and he's created such an exceptional experience. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper for people to attend and go into the live event, but just a great example of somebody pivoting, and thinking like, not only how do I survive, but how do I help my audience? Because he's not sitting there thinking, how do I keep my business going, when he comes up with all these ideas. He's thinking about, what does my audience need? What are they struggling with at the moment? He's not going to let them down. He's going to think, well, they need me more than ever. So I'm going to create an experience where they come out of it not feeling like they have to be reactive to what's going on in the world, and they can actually create their reality, which is pretty awesome. Geez, I've never talked this bloody long in years. So I'll answer a couple more questions. Don't want to upset anyone. I didn't respond to questions. Should I be connecting through my Facebook personal account or the business page when looking to cement existing relationships and building new relationships? I guess it's like depends on the individual, like, because the person that you're sending that connection request is going to have an opinion about that. And if they're of the opinion that you shouldn't do it through a personal account, they're not going to accept the friend request. So like the way that I would suggest doing it is try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, then don't continue doing it. But LinkedIn is a much more appropriate place to request somebody to be in your network than it is necessarily on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook is a tricky one. Business page is definitely preferable if you can connect with them that way on Facebook. But I have two Facebook profiles. So I have one that I had since I was in my 20s. Most of the time it was pictures of me, going large at nightclubs or whatever. And I thought, I can't use this for business. So I set up a separate one. I wish I never did that, to be honest. Like, I wish I had just one profile. It's very hard once you've got two. And so the second one was a professional one. And I have reached out to business connections, and a lot of them have accepted me on that one. So, I would definitely, try and do it. You're not going to, it's very rare that someone's going to get upset for receiving a friend request. They just might not accept it. And then you just have to be okay with that, because people have got their own boundaries. Oh, David Meerman Scott, Mark, I'm a big fan of his. His book, The New Rules of Marketing, was a big contributor to changing my view on marketing altogether. And I have been to Business Mastery with Tony Robbins live, and David spoke there, which was awesome. Let's just see if we've got any more questions. Karen, have you asked your question? I think I've got 5. Okay, all right. Lorraine. Can I guess you can speak Cantonese. I speak a bit of Mandarin. My Chinese name is Qin Tianlong, which Qin was the first emperor of China, and Tian means sky or heaven, and Long means dragon. So heavenly sky dragon emperor is a pretty awesome name, Qin Tianlong. I'm just seeing if there's any more questions so that everyone feels. Mark, what app can I build through this platform? I guess you guys are conversing with each other on LinkedIn. So on Thursday, quite important that I get through this. So on Thursday at 11 a.m. Perth time, which will be 12 p.m. Sydney time. Okay, I'll get back to that. So yeah, on Thursday, I'm joined by the founder of the Entourage, which is an education group, it's the largest education group for entrepreneurs in the world. Jack Delosa, somebody that's been on LinkedIn Heroes before. He made the rich list in Australia in his 20s when he was in venture capital, BRW rich list, I think it was, and then the Financial Review, and he's been on it consecutively ever since. He's won tons of awards and accolades in the business world. I think he runs a TV show or Sky News show called Entrepreneurs. He's been on the cover of a lot of magazines. This guy is like, he's a celebrity entrepreneur. And I interviewed him a couple of years ago for LinkedIn Heroes, and he shared with me when the government changed the regulation in the education industry and all of the grants were disappeared, he went from being a profitable business with 80 staff to the next month facing a loss of $800,000 in the month. And when he came out the other side, he was the only business in his industry that was left standing, the only one. So this guy knows a little bit about overcoming adversity. And so I got in touch with him recently, and I said, look, coronavirus is impacting businesses in all different ways. And I'm sure that you're in high demand at the moment for people wanting to get your advice and thoughts on it. I would love it if you would come speak to my community on Monday Night Live. And he said he can do Thursday, not Monday. But it's going to be a really valuable session. I'd love for you guys to be there live so you can interact, ask any questions that you want to while we're there. And I'll make sure that Jack is accountable and authentic, like I've been talking about. So we'll go back quickly to the lead generation, and then I'll wrap up the evening. What can I highlight as top quality when using LinkedIn for lead generation? So I think with anything on social media, whatever your question is, how do I get more followers? How do I get more leads? How do I get more sales? How do I build a bigger brand? How do I, whatever the bit comes next, it's always the answer is add more value. Always add more value to the consumer. And so for generating leads, whether you're sending a message, whether you're posting on social media, whatever it is, you need to think about, is this going to help people, and is the people that it's going to help going to see it and they're going to be able to consume it? And so if you're sending, I think the easiest way to generate leads on LinkedIn is firstly just to have a killer profile, awesome profile. I know a good company, Bibby Consulting Group, they write profiles. Yeah, just a plug. Okay. Anyway, so and then you reach out to people. What do people do when they get a connection request? Who's this guy? Click on his name, read his profile. Wow, that's impressive. Look, he's speaking to. It's like he's speaking to me. He's reading in customer-centric language. He deals with people that exactly like me. Oh, look, he knows a lot of people in my industry. I'm going to accept that connection request, and then the next step would literally be to message them and say, I just want to find out more about your business and see if we can help in any shape or form. And move it to a telephone conversation. Really important to move the conversation offline. LinkedIn will not sell anything for you. It just starts conversations. And so you want to make sure that, you ask questions on that call so that you're not selling to them there either, but you're just literally finding out if they've got the problem. As soon as you've got the problem, sell your heart out. You have my permission. It's not like I never want you to sell. I'm from a sales background as well. I absolutely love sales. But I don't sell to people that don't have the problem that I solve and haven't asked me to. If I'm selling to somebody on a phone call and they've just told me that they can't understand LinkedIn, they'd be dying to find somebody to outsource it to, and they can't find anybody suitable. Even before I start pitching, I say, would you like to hear more about how I can help you with that? And then I get their permission and they say yes. And that's when the selling starts. But is it really selling, or is it helping? I'm just helping them buy from me. They seem like they want to. So stop selling, start helping, probably is the answer. I could have just said that. All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up there. I hope you all have a fantastic week in business. It's great to see so much engagement in the comments. See you on Thursday for the interview with Jack Delosa. And yeah, have a great Monday night. I'm going to have to wake up Marshall.